Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Hello and welcome. This is a presentation by Tracy Kennedy, who has been an intern here this summer at Microsoft Research. Tracy is a graduate student in sociology at the University of Toronto, where she works with a group of sociologists studying the many meanings of the concept of community now in a time of cyberspace and the internet. Tracy's work this summer has been really important for us in building bridges from Microsoft Research's community research group into the areas of Xbox and Xbox Live, where an enormous amount of very important community is forming. So I hope you'll join me today in giving your attention to Tracy, who will present her work from this summer, documenting her investigation into the ways games are played and the issues that intersect with gender and community and the expansion of the base of game users. So with that, I hope you'll join me in welcoming Tracy.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I'm going to talk about a topic that's very interesting to me and very important to me as a gamer. And of course I'm fighting a cold on the day that I have to present, so bear with my coughing. So I'm going to talk about the non-traditional gamer, women in particular. And people often think that women aren't interested in gaming or they don't know how to game. And no, they're not a figment of our imagination. Okay, so the ESA stats here from 2005, we can see that yes, women are gaming. In fact, 38% of gamers are women, and these stats include console games in addition to PC games as well. But there's a lot more room for female gamers. These numbers really remind me of the numbers that we saw in the early internet days, so the mid-90s. And we saw 70% of online users were men and 30% were women. So lots changed in the last 10 years with respect to how many people are on the internet, 50-50. And hopefully in the next few years we'll see female gamers increasing to the same amount. So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about today, two key areas. So first I'll talk a little bit about capturing the interest of women and expanding the gaming market. I'll talk about the home visits that we conducted and mom gamers. Then I'll talk about keeping gamers interested in the game beyond its completion in gaming in general. I'll talk about an online gaming community that works to not only draw women together, but also keeps them interested in games and gaming. And of course, I think these two areas are connected. What can we do to get more women gaming? And once we have them gaming, how do we keep them there? So in capturing the interest of women and expanding the gaming market, I think it's important to look at home gaming. Not only because the purchasing power this demographic has, but they also have the power to shape the future gaming consumer, their kids. So to take a closer look at home gaming, we conducted a small research project and visited 5 local families. The parents were all early to mid-40s. The kids between the ages of 9 and 14. 4 families had a PlayStation 2, Xbox, and a Wii. Only one family only had the Wii. None of the families had the 360 or the PlayStation 3. So not only did we observe the families gaming together, but we also interviewed family members and asked them about their gaming habits, how they felt about games and gaming, what they liked, what they disliked, and how they spend time together as a family gaming. So when we visited the homes, we recorded, video recorded the gameplay. We took some pictures, as you can see here. These are some of the pictures that Daniel Pargman and I took when we were on our home visits. So out of the 5 families, there was really only one mom who spent considerable time gaming with her kids. They were selected through a database, a usability database. Yeah. So out of the 5 families, there was really only one mom who spent considerable time gaming with her kids. The other 4 women would sometimes play with their kids, but as a group. So this raised some questions for us as to why they don't game, or why they don't game more with their children. And ESA's 2005 stats also tell us that 47% of gamer parents are women. So I was particularly interested in how the moms who don't game too much or don't game at all, how they feel about games and gaming overall. So one of the things that surfaced for moms who didn't game much in general, parental perceptions of gaming overall. So moms with limited gaming experience are less enthusiastic than those parents who gamed in their youth or still game, not surprising. And they value games and gaming less so than the gamer mom. So one of the barriers or obstacles to more home gaming was the concern that kids will become couch potatoes, or worse, uber geeks, with no life, little physical activity, and running around the home in role-playing gear, as we see here. Most of the families kept an eye on the number of hours their kids played on the console, noting that they didn't want their kids to always be in front of the console or in front of the TV. Excuse me. Parents also had perceptions of next-gen consoles. And this was common with all 5 families. And what we saw, or what we saw with the home visits, the 360 has a reputation for a mature audience. Gears of War, Halo, a lot of blood and guts, war games, hoorah, hoorah. And everybody thinks that. Nintendo Wii has a reputation as it's great for kids. There's lots of fun games, we can all play them together, and there's not really a concern for mature content. I mean, obviously they haven't seen Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, but that's beside the point. The PlayStation 2 is somewhere in between, but with respect to the PlayStation 3, it's far too expensive, and it really wasn't even a consideration for these families because of the cost of the console. And cost is a common concern for these families. They all noted how expensive consoles are, how expensive the games are, and then, of course, you can't just buy the console and the games. There's lots of accessories and gadgets that go with it, and that starts to add up. So a few of the families rented games rather than buying them. They all wanted to play more games, but some just couldn't afford them. So based on the perception that the 360 is intended for a mature audience, there's also the issue of having kids of different ages in the same household. For example, the 9-year-old and the 14-year-old. And the 14-year-old always wants to play the 360. So how do parents negotiate games and gameplay when kids are different ages and they want to play different types of games? So a couple of the moms noted that they allow the oldest to play more mature games on the Xbox that they do have or on their PC gaming while the youngest is in bed. So this after-hours type of play, or when the youngest is not around. We also see gender differences in the kind of games that girls and boys want to play. Again, not surprising, but we have issues of content appropriateness across age and gender divisions. So the bigger question here is, why would moms be interested in a console that has a reputation for mature games? The moms we talk to aren't interested in war games, gore, and so forth. And I really doubt we're going to see Master Chief dancing in the meadow with bunnies, and we're not going to see Halo Kitty, armed with an assault rifle. So, but it was really interesting to see the older kids in the family trying to convince their folks, the 360 is also for them. And one youngster was saying, but there's live arcade and you can play your card games and, you'd like it. It's not all war games. So perhaps we found our spokesperson, but there's a real need to show moms that there's more on the 360 than meets the eye, overcoming those stereotypes. And not only for herself, but for her kids. So when moms do game, there's a clear motivation. Spending time with their kids is important, and gaming is a way to do things with kids that they both enjoy, especially if mom is already a gamer. And ESA's findings support this as well. Gaming with kids is an excellent way to monitor what they're doing, the game content, of course, and who they're playing online with. So for moms who have no gaming history or very little gaming experience, there are some key motivators that surfaced in our home visits. And these things are important to keep in mind with respect to expanding the gaming market and reaching the non-traditional gamer. Games should be entertaining, of course, entertaining enough to not only game with their kids, but also engaging enough to sit with the kids and watch them play the game. So passive and active play. The moms we spoke to about gaming noted that they like games that are short. Time is always an issue. Gaming sometimes falls into the cracks and crevices of the day, before a meal, in between house cleaning, and not to be gendered, but yes, this is what's happening. They should be easy to play with a low learning curve. There's not a lot of time to spend learning what each button means, so simplicity is important. More physical, so the Wii Sports is very popular because it gets the whole family engaged and moving around, and it's really funny to watch people dancing around the living room. It really is. And it has to be fun. Laughing is important. Low stress is key. So one woman in particular talked about, I don't want to have to worry about guns chasing after me and what button do I push so I don't get killed within the first 5 seconds of gameplay. This is important. Low stress. So as a way of introducing women into gaming, I think these motivations are important to consider. And it's also important to think about how household context and family members play into all this, and look at gaming as a communal and shared activity in addition to gaming alone. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about some things to consider with respect to expanding the gaming market and reaching more women. But what about the women who are already gaming? So in the next part of my presentation, I want to talk about how we can keep women interested in games and gaming and how we might be able to enhance game and gamer retention. For one thing, it's important to have role models. Groups like the Frag Dolls, PMS Clan can be a good example to other gamers. They show that women game, that they're good at it, and you can even get paid for it, you know, and you compete against others. But not all women are professional gamers. Not all women play Halo 3 to 4 hours a day. What about the average female gamer, the less experienced user, the typical female gamer? What things might keep them interested in games and gaming, and what might dissuade them from gaming, especially in online spaces? So to answer my curiosity about what keeps women interested in games and gaming, I chose to look at a women's online gaming community, Gamer Chicks. So Gamer Chicks is an Xbox Live forum. It's just over a year old. It started in June of 2006. And in just over a year, membership has grown to over 3,000 women. They're all different ages, playing all different types of games. They're from the US, they're from Canada, they're from Europe, they're from everywhere. Membership is approved by moderator Trixie360, and no men are allowed in the forum to either post or to read the posts. I've been a part of a lot of forum communities. Many of them fail, many people leave. Because of arguments and bickering among the members of the community, it gets ugly really quickly. And what we see almost immediately in a lot of these spaces is racist, sexist, and homophobic dialogue between community members. So I was leery when I came across Gamer Chicks. But the more posts I read in the forum, the more interested I became in what the women were talking about. And I noticed that this community was very different from other ones that I had been a part of. So women were talking about, and I'll explain more in a few minutes, things not often related to games and gaming at all, which was really interesting. But there's a clear sense of community among the members. Not an easy task considering the number of women in this community. So Gamer Chicks has a clear manifesto with the basic premise that everyone respects each other and everyone supports each other. And one of the lines in the manifesto that really struck me, it's about games and companionship. And in the world of online gaming, what really struck me is that online gaming for many women means social gaming. So where relationships with gamers are fostered and nurtured, both in gameplay and outside of the game. So on June 19th, 2007, I took a snapshot of the forum posts, so to speak. So I hand-coded 410 topics that were on the forum that day and coded them into 3 themes. So right away I was really struck by the elements of the forum. So just over half of the forum topics dealt with relationship building and social support. So gaming support accounted for 48% of the forum and included topics related to games and gaming such as hardware issues, yes, the red ring, comments about games that were really good or really bad, gameplay suggestions, strategies for gameplay, and then gaming about other consoles as well, such as PlayStation, Wii, and so forth. Topics that fell under excuse me, the relationship building theme accounted for 44% of the topics and included discussions such as arranging face-to-face meetings, interactive posts and threads, looking for friends, looking for people who like the same type of games, and introduction of new members. And just a note about the picture that I have here. These are 3 gamer chicks and the 3 members that basically founded this forum, and they all have matching tattoos on the inside of their wrist. And it's you know, it's relative to the gamer chicks. 8% of the forum topics fell under social support, and that included things such as encouragement and help for offline personal issues. So we see discussions such as depression, weight and diet issues, problems with spouses or partners, or problems with other family members. And under support as well falls harassment. So this is with respect to harassment in online gaming spaces. So Gamer Chicks noted harassment such as verbal abuse and name-calling, pornographic photos and exhibitionism on webcams, team killers, so people that will only kill the women on the team, exclusionary practices, so repeatedly being booted from games, invites for cybersex. And they talk about how the harassment occurs during gameplay, outside of gameplay, so in such areas as lobbies, right before you're getting ready to play the game itself, and in discussion forums outside of Gamer Chicks. So here's an example of harassment from the Gamer Chicks forum, and I have asked permission from these ladies to use this and talk to you about it today. Okay. Hey ladies, I hope you can help me on this one. I'm being harassed by 2 guys that used to be on my friends list. They keep sending me friend requests over and over, even after I decline them. They're even doing it with their alternate accounts. Is there any way for me to block them from sending me friend requests? I've searched all over and I can't find a way to block them. This is day 3 of this, and it's getting quite annoying. I can't believe how childish some people can be. And here's another example. Well, me and my friend were playing split screen on, and then gamer tag, on Gears of War. A guy joins the room and I booted him since I was just about to invite my friend. The guy keeps coming back about 3 times, and he sent me messages saying curse words and more. I message him and tell him, I'm not scared of you, so leave me alone. He sends me a pic message with him holding the Xbox controller in one hand and a gun that's real, and it's pointing to the camera. I immediately block communication with him. What should I do about this person? Excuse me. So if we're thinking about how to keep women interested in games and gaming, and we're situating games as social, which they are, then we need to consider online harassment in online spaces as an obstacle for female gamers and a barrier to social gaming. Will women stay interested in online gaming if they are constantly harassed? While not every female gamer experiences harassment, and several have told me that they don't bother posting all of the incidences to the forum because they would just be flooding the forum with all of the experiences that they have. So I think that in terms of retention, we really have to take the experiences seriously. So how do gamer chicks respond to community members when they have been harassed or when they're in need of social support? Numerous women offer their support, sharing similar stories, some offer solutions, and some simply soothe. So this diagram shows network properties of people who post a topic related to social support, which includes harassment, and the people who respond to it. So the starbursts are clusters of conversations between people about social support and harassment. So this is an example of a community member who primarily posts topics and other people respond. So the initiator. And the initiator might post a question. So how do I deal with somebody who's bothering me? Information, just so you know if somebody is bothering you, this is what you do. Discussion, something interactive, or a story or a situation. So this is what happened to me. I want to share it with you. Initiators may occasionally respond to others, but they generally just post. So out of the 410 threads, 212 gamer chicks posted topics, and that's under 10% of the community. And this is another example of an initiator who sometimes replies but primarily posts. This is quite a large conversation. Okay. So the replier is someone who primarily responds to the topics that are posted. And these can be the answer people, the discussants or the conversationalists, the experts, or the supporters. Of course, then we have the people who do both. They post and reply, often in similar amounts. And you can see the loop in this diagram, and that indicates that they've responded to their own initial post. So they're in dialogue with the community members. So the lurker, and I hate to use that word because it's often associated or has a negative connotation. Lurking is not always bad. Who neither posts nor replies, and maybe just reading or observing. So that's indicated by the dots around the clusters of conversation. We're not really sure how many gamer chicks are reading. Even though we have a sense of how many views a topic might get, we're not sure if people are repeatedly looking at the same topic just to catch up or to reread and so forth. Not everyone posts topics or replies. So several gamer chicks that I've talked to noted that they often only read the forum, and if they have a personal message, then they'll send that to the person outside of the forum. But it's also very possible that there are many gamer chicks who don't read the forum regularly or come to the forum only when they have a certain need. And I think what's important here is that these women know that they have somewhere to go for information, communication, and social support if they really need it. So what these diagrams tell me is that there's a structured community here with clear social roles, a community that deals with harassment in a collective and supportive manner. Gamer Chicks also spans beyond the borders of the game and the online forum into other online spaces, such as MySpace and Facebook. And this is the MySpace page for Gamer Chicks. And I have to say, I mean, the slide says 2,000 plus gamer chicks, and they have so many members each month that the people who run the run the things to update this can hardly keep up. So it's always 1,000 plus, and all of a sudden it's 2,000 plus. So the membership is really increasing rapidly. And this is the Facebook gamer chicks. And somebody's posted some really cool pictures of Master Chief in a pink armor down there. So the community also spills into offline spaces. So with face-to-face events, house parties, barbecues, and this was Gamer Chicks Barbecue last weekend that I attended, and I was able to meet some of the gamer chicks in this area here. And this happens all over the country. So we have t-shirts and marketing of an online community of female gamers. And this is all, these are all things that the gamer chicks take on themselves. So they do this in their own time. They're not paid to do it. They're not paid to promote the community. They do it because they want to and because the community is important to them. So the gamer chicks community is very important to these women. And here are a couple of quotes. Girls of all ages and from all backgrounds have a safe environment to chat and play without fear of negative comments and remarks. Gamer Chicks has really given me an opportunity to meet some wonderful ladies. I've been online so much more than I was before and have become much more vocal when I game because I'm not afraid of getting talked down to. I feel Gamer Chicks has encouraged us ladies to become more vocal and active on Xbox Live without having to worry about being hit on, cussed out, or kicked out of a game just because we are girls. So in addition to coding the topics and creating network diagrams, I also ask Gamer Chicks about how they feel about the community and why it's so important to them. So while I'm still conducting some of these interviews with them, several things have emerged already. Meeting people with a common interest is important. So first they start off with games and gaming, but it also branches off into other areas such as weightlifting or gardening and so forth. Sharing stories, knowing that they're not alone, that there's other women out there that they can share this with, and many times other women have also experienced this, have the same type of experiences. Creating safe spaces to discuss sensitive topics. Creating safe online gaming places, and a lot of the Gamer Chicks game with each other, have them on their friends lists, they create groups, and they might even create clans. Mentoring and learning, very important to women who feel their game skills are low or lacking, or that they feel somehow inadequate in their gaming abilities. So having somebody there to mentor you, whether it be walking you through the game or just playing, and knowing that you're not going to be laughed at or booted out of the game is very important. And how to stop or deal with abuse and harassment. And this is especially important when the mechanisms available on Xbox Live to stop people from bothering them don't always work. So I set out to answer two main questions at the start of the presentation. The first, how do we get people interested in gaming and purchasing games? And my answer, social research is important. We can learn about women's needs and interests, and research allows us to examine various social contexts, such as kids and family, that may encourage non-traditional gamers to start gaming and really liking it. The second question I asked, how do we keep women interested in playing a game and gaming? And this can also be answered through social research, where we learn about women's gaming experiences and the barriers that may exist. We can also learn about the value of online communities as social support systems and networking hubs. Since gaming is becoming more and more about the social and the interactive, we need to think about social problems in these new social spaces. And these social problems, such as the harassment that I've talked about today, are potential impediments to keeping women interested and invested in the game and gaming. Given that there is such a large market of female gamers out there, both tapped and untapped, we really need to think about how to manage these social spaces in a way that situates gaming as a positive experience. I really think that game developers, marketers, and social researchers want to know the same types of things, but we may just be asking the questions in a different way. We can learn a lot from each other, and the questions we ask and the answers that we find will benefit all gamers. I just want to take a minute and thank everybody who has made my internship enjoyable and interesting, and to those people who helped put all the pieces together for me. And many of you are here now, which is really great. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you. So do we have any questions? Yes?
Did you come up with any really clear prescriptive guidance on sort of more regulation of live gaming environments?
So the question is, did I come up with a clear, I'm sorry.
Sort of some clear regulating.
What should we do? What do we do about it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there is a clear answer. You know, some of the things that come up are, well, the women have already kind of regulated their own space in some way. So they've gone off and they've started gaming by themselves. And this reminds me of the old arguments of, you know, do we put girls in a girls' school and boys in a boys' school? And that's not always the answer, especially, you know, when we can really learn a lot from each other and by integrating. And it doesn't really do anything to fix the larger ideological problem, as, you know, where the sexism and harassment stems from. So in terms of, well, what do we do about it? I think that we need something clearer on Xbox Live in some way. You know, women have talked about, we need an abuse button, you know, like okay, abuse, okay, harassment. But we always run the risk of that turning itself around, and then the people who are abusing, harassing, using it against, you know, other people, or abusing the abuse button. So in terms of what to do about it, this is where my research continues, and trying to figure out ways that work not only for the women of the community, but also with the Xbox Live people. John?
Have you looked at some of the big massively multiplayer role-playing games, what the patterns are their behavior?
The question is, have I looked at multiplayer games and whether the patterns are similar? Well, I haven't specifically looked at any one game, but I can tell you that I've been researching online experiences since '95. And as we progress, it's always something. So in '95, when we had 70% of men online and 30% women, you know, I was researching women who had negative experiences online where their feminist websites were hacked. Excuse me, they were trolled or flamed in listservs. You know, and then I've done research in the blogosphere where the same type of thing happens on with respect to women's comments. You know, and here I am in the gaming sphere talking about the same type of things. So while I don't have any empirical data to support it, I strongly suspect that we can see the same types of things, you know, occurring in any type of gaming social space. But maybe that's next on my research agenda. Yes?
Two questions. They come tangential. One question I have is, how do they verify that you're female or gamer chick?
Okay, so the first question is, how does Trixie360 know that you're really a woman? Well, she's really clever and creative. So sometimes she will, I want to say Google stalk, but she'll Google stalk them. So try and find who the people are online. She'll try and look on Facebook to see if there's anything that she can find out there. And sometimes she will just engage in a discussion with them through email. And of course, Deborah Tannen would totally advocate, yes, there are gendered conversation, you know, patterns, and often you can tell, no way, this is a guy who's pretending. And other times, you know, I mean, I'm sure there are people who slip through the cracks, but they're often found out right away by how they post into the forum.
The same question is because of my ignorance in online gaming experience in terms of how do people tell if you're a female or a male? You know, when there's you mentioned that female get voted out from the team in the
Okay.
chat. How do they know?
Okay, so the question is, how do the people who harass people know that you're a woman? So many of the women will have a generic gamer tag. So mine's Pistol Vixen. It's pretty clear I'm female. But a lot of them will leave it generic, and their picture will be very generic. Now that's fine until you want to play a strategy game where you need your headset. And as soon as you talk into the microphone, oh my goodness, you know, oh, are you a 12-year-old boy? Is usually the first thing. Or, you know, oh, you must be a woman. And then it just goes downhill from there. I can tell you that some women in the past have used voice software to alter how they sound on these headsets, right, so that they don't sound like women. So they have the generic name tag or gamer tag, and then they don't sound like a woman. And the gaming experience, of course, is very different. But then you have the game players that do have a gamer tag that clearly indicates this is a woman, you know. And of course, sometimes all it takes is for you to get into the lobby, and either the game shuts down or the verbal abuse flies forth. So, yes.
As I think about what you're saying, it's sort of a paradox here, it seems to me, that part of the appeal of games is a transgressive quality. Part of the appeal of being a minority population is also a kind of transgressive quality. I'm not what you think I'm.
Right.
And so, I do think if you play with that, or if you limit that too much, you're limiting part of the appeal of the entire enterprise.
Right.
And I also wonder about the sort of the intermediated distance. Is it a road rage-like thing where you get worse behavior because people are not operating under their real identities, or because they're in a transgressive environment? It seems like it would be really interesting to try to design research which would get at some of those questions.
So the different types of experience based on how you present your social identity in gaming spaces. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Or does it change? Does the behavior change in a co-located situation compared to a remote one?
Okay. Right. I think Mark has a response.
I'm sure he does.
So there's certainly a correlation between reduced social cues and the magnitude of antisocial behavior. But I think to the earlier part of your point, when we spoke about this a couple of days ago, we kind of came up with this metaphor of is Xbox Live Times Square 1.0 or Times Square 2.0? And didn't Times Square 2.0 kind of lose some of the charm, if not a lot of the grit?
A lot more people go there now.
But a lot more people go there now, and thus I think you get at sort of the crux of what may be a real challenge, which is appealing to the core community may repel your next stage expansion population. On the other hand, your real profit may come from the expansion population. So the metaphors for Xbox Live that I like that we've been kicking around is the future of Xbox Live essentially Times Square 1.0 or 2.0, or is it Las Vegas, where essentially you get to still do all the other stuff. We just don't show it to you out on the street. Or is it Salt Lake City? Or is it Disney World? And I think these are all reasonable metaphors for the future of...
Seems like revenue models for all those things. Really important.
Well, Disney World makes really good revenue, but so does Times Square.
What about Salt Lake?
Salt Lake City is a really good place to have a breakdown, though. If you need help, it's the place to be. Anyway, enough of that. Okay. I think these are really neat topics for thinking through how do you manage. Ultimately, almost every population on Earth except one is a minority population.
Daniel.
I have two questions. My first question was, did you imply that some of the gamer chicks sort of have found their audience and that they only play with other gamer chicks?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so my second question is, of course, you're discussing so many problems here. You could like discuss how to make a certain woman or female gamer have a pleasurable experience, and then on the other hand, over here you have a societal problem of, you know, why does this harassment happen? So, but if we, so my question is, okay, so here's a community with 3,000, and perhaps tomorrow there will be 4,000 female gamers and etc. But that's a really, really small subset of the 7 million people who are Xbox Live members. Is this the solution? I mean, is this good enough? Do they have a critical mass, or do you see this as a solution to the, someone asked you earlier, like, what could you do then, or how would you decide?
So the question is, do I feel that Gamer Chicks is a good solution with 3,000 plus members, but really only a small percentage of the people that are out there gaming? I think it's one solution for a group of people. I don't want to generalize and say all women should do this. We should all join hands together and game and so forth, because not all women want to do that. And not all men want to game in online spaces either. But I really think that this is, that online gaming communities are important. And you know, as I've tried to point out, connecting with other women who game and just having the opportunity to say, look, I'm really stuck on, you know, the first chapter, and I don't want to ask my boyfriend or my husband or my little brother because I'll never hear the end of it. So can you play on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock type of thing. I think it's important to be able to have that to fall back on. And, you know, whether they stay or not, I think it's a really good starting point. Yeah.
Did you get a sense, either in the home visits or in dealing with the Gamer Chicks, that there's a perceived lack of content that's women-friendly or at least gender-neutral? You know, so were there women saying, hey, I'd love to have a game that was actually designed with women in mind?
The question is, did anything come up in the home visits or the forums that wanted that gender-neutral content, or is that correct?
Or even women biased.
Or even, okay. No, not related to gender specifically, and I think that that's a tricky one because, for example, I don't want to play Mario Party, I want to play Gears of War, so I might not be this stereotypical female gamer, right? I mean, I don't want somebody to try and tell me, this game is for women, you should play this. But anyway, it was more about how do I get game content into the home that's going to appeal to my 9-year-old and 14-year-old, right? Because the 14-year-old is the one who wants the 360 and wants to be able to kind of, you know, expand, let's get over Mario. Mario's great, but I want to play Gears of War, you know, and this is really was the issue that came forth. On the forums, no, there's nothing really with respect to, I really wish we had a game that was geared more towards women. There have been discussions on, you know, character representation. So are the women hypersexualized and so forth, and that's a typical discussion that we see in a lot of the forums. Some women it bothers, other women they couldn't care less, they just want to play the game, which is interesting. Dennis?
I very much like the appeal that you made for sort of dialogue between marketers and designers and social researchers, etc. But one of the challenges I think that you alluded to is the fact that those communities speak different languages, etc., and may frame research questions differently, etc. Are there some suggestions that you could make in terms of either how we frame questions or how we approach research that would, from our narrow perspective of business, actually give us useful data that we could get into the next version of this product that we get out in 6 months?
So the question is, I talked about the relationship between marketers and developers, you know, the industry and the social scientists, and how we can work together to answer these questions. So I really like what we've done here this summer, and we've had a lot of discussions. We've had, whether they be on the phone, whether they be in focus groups, to establish, okay, here's what I'd like to know. Okay, well, here's what I'd like to know. And what we found is that okay, well, we want to know the same things. You know, we might have different motivations, or we might ask it in a different way, but look, you know, here we've put a research project together. You know, you had your interests and we had ours, but, you know, this is the data, and we have you know, data that we both can draw from, maybe for different publication areas. But I really think that the talking, the communicating, and continuing those relationships. You know, we don't have to be on the opposite sides of the fence. John, you had a question?
Yeah, so in my experience, it seems to me that in The Sims or that end of the spectrum, people behave differently than they would in Halo or in PvP servers, in World of Warcraft. And there's things in the middle. Has anybody tried to figure out what attributes in a game contribute to worse behavior?
So the question is, has anyone looked at different types of behaviors and different types of gameplay, right? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is research that looks at, you know, violent games make people do violent things. You know, and of course we see a lot in the media, major social catastrophes that happen, such as Columbine.
But if people are actually exhibiting worse language and playing Epic Unreal than they are in The Sims, that would be interesting to quantify for me.
Right. So, and that might be dependent on the demographics that are playing the game, I would think. So if you have, I mean, in The Sims, for example, you know, is it the same demographic that's playing Gears of War? You know, do you have the, and I'll be stereotypical, but do you have the 14-year-old boys in The Sims who might be more prone to letting things flow freely from their mouths, you know? Dennis, did you have a...
We haven't seen it in behavior, but we've seen games like The Sims used in very interesting ways. One particular example was a woman who showed us that she would create a sim and then put her ex-husband's face on it and then slowly watch it starve, and did this repeatedly.
Wow.
Amazing the things people will tell
Very
you.
creative. Right.
And she may have had good reason, Bill, I know.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much. It's been great having you here.